Hello and welcome back to another tip of the Siai Marchetti. In this case, it's not going to be only a tip of the Siai Marchetti, it's a tip for every aircraft you find in XPlane, and for the developers that still don't know how to make and include some particles in the planes that they create or they have, for example. Usually when you find first of all, I have to say that you have to be in XPlane11.30. This is the beta 6, and they have included, laminar research has included a particle system that you can put in your planes. Usually when you load the planes that you have or the planes that you created, they are going to appear some particles. Okay, they are going to appear particles inside of the plane or outside of the plane, depending on the areas. For example, the engine, the landing gears, they are touching when they are colliding, or touching the ground when they are landing, the wingtips when there are some kind of condensation, or just the wings with some kind of condensation. But if you want to make different particles, or just changing the position or whatever, then you have to do it by your own, and these are not by default. Okay, so here we are in the Siai Marchetti. I'm going to use it because it's the last plane we created, Simcoders and I, making very fun because it has some rep inside of it, so you have to use maintenance system with it, etc., etc. So I'm starting to understand how the particles works, and they are very easy. They are usually solid particles, but I have used particle systems for a long time in my life of artist, but usually in 3D, not in 2D, not in engine like this, like this plane. Okay, so you can watch them inside of the plane. You can see how they are appearing, and that is very important, because if you are not see them, you don't see them, then you wouldn't know how they appear, or if they are good in performance or whatever, because particle systems, they are a hit performance if you don't manage them correctly. That's the reason I just put the frames per second you can have usually. Okay, so that way we always will know with the plane we have the amount of FPS we have in all moments. So when we put the particles, we know if we are eating so much performance or not. Okay, the first thing the first thing you are going to do when you want to learn about particles is come to the developers page that explains laminar research put here, explaining everything about the particle systems. It's very good, explain it, but there is a problem as always. It's all test, it's all theory. There are no videos around, and that is the reason I wanted to make a video of how to create and include these particles inside of XPlane. More or less, it's going to be very rough, very basic, but these very basic first steps are going to allow you to start playing with it, and it's very fun. That is the reason this is not only for developers that maybe they search themselves how to make it, how to put the particles, but also for the people that want to change things and add things inside to the planes that are forgotten from the developers or whatever, and the developers are not going to change anything, so they can change by their own whatever they want. So these are the steps usually what you have to do. First of all, of course, you have to have the plane. Okay, that in 11.30, as I said, they are going to appear new particles. If the engine is going to blow up or is going to fire, then you're going to see different particles that you saw in 11.26 previous version. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is, first of all, where you want to put that emitter. In XPlane, in the particle system, there are emitters that emits the particles, and then there are the properties of the emitter, how many times it's going to emit, when it's going to emit the particles, and then there are the particles themselves that are have different properties. Okay, so you can set the life of the particles. Well, usually that is in the meters, but the texture of it, I don't know. We will see a lot of them. Okay. So where would you like to put the particles? In this purpose, I'm going to make something very quick, and it's not going to be something professional in this plane, because I'm going to work with it and it will take several hours until I have good results. Even I'm using the particles for things that are not designed for. I'm not going to speak about that, you will see it, but you can make things with the particle system that are not designed for in XPlane. Okay, you can hack them, and I like to hack a lot. So in this case, I'm going to put a particle system here, emitting from here. Okay. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is know which coordinates has this point. I use a 3D program. Okay. Usually, of course, I have my model here in 3D Studio Max. That is the program that I use to create my models. You can use Blender, but of course you won't have this model. I think in the last version of the Sporters here that I work with, and usually I work with the 1.0, but because I like this one, I didn't change. But in the last version of the Sporter of XPlane plugin for 3D Studio Max, that is coming from okay, you have Step to Sky, and then you have the software here, and you have the Max Sporter here. Okay, so you can download them from here. Okay, and I have this one, the old version, but there is a new one. Even if it says here is old one, there are new ones that can you install in the 3D Studio Max. Or if you use Blender, you can use the Sporter that it comes with Blender. I don't know, in the SDK of XPlane11. I'm not going to show you because I don't use Blender. Okay, I prefer this one better for me. And they are going to include the particle emitters, but right now they are not included. I don't know if in Blender is included or not, but it doesn't matter because it's very easy. In the last version, what I was saying about this version of XPlane, they are going to include an importer of objects, of XPlane objects, so you can see where you have to put the things on and change them if you want. Okay, but that is not a problem if you don't have also the program. You have to try until you find it. Okay, I'm going to show you to put it correctly in the place that I have to put, and then you can check out later. Okay, so we are going to put not a geometry, because if I put a geometry, then the geometry is going to appear, unless I'm making something, for example, like a rocket or something, that I put the geometry of the rocket. But usually I won't put also the emitter as a geometry. I would put it as a point. There are helpers here. Okay, so I can select, for example, in the area that I am in the wings, for example, in the layer, selected, and then I create a point. Okay, this point is very big, it's huge, because the world in XPlane is very small. I don't know if it's because it's performance things they do it or not, but that is the way. Okay, once I create it, this emitter will emit the particles. I only have to select it and export it. Okay, so what I'm going to do for export it, I'm going to export selected, because I always try to export. In the last version of the plugin for 3D Studio Max, it doesn't have the export selected, but it has some kind of layer, so finally it's the same. Export selected is here, so it's going to come to the objects, and I have all the objects here. Okay, all the objects that I have created for the plane. Okay, this is the Marchetti, and then I go to here. I will create another folder that I will create particles. It doesn't matter the name, because it's just going to pick up the name whatever you put. Okay, but I'm going to put particles, and then I'm going to put, for example, okay, as OBJ. I save it. I say that export animation. In this case, don't have animation. If we would have animation, then the emitter will move and that is nice. For example, if you have a plane that is bending the wing, then you want to put the tips, then you have to bend it to the wings, export it at the animation, and it will appear. Okay. Once we have it done, we go to our folder in where we have the plane, and then I will see the particles tutorial. We open it, and we have this stuff that is the exporter, is the 1.0 exporter version from Step to Sky, and it's like that. For me, the important thing here, I'm going to remove this stuff. The important thing here, as you can see, there are no polygons here. It has to be an 8.0 object. The important part comes here in these numbers, these last numbers. These numbers here are the numbers of the position, the coordinates position of the object that is there, of the plane, from the reference of the 0, 0, 0 reference point of the center of the not the center, the 0 reference of the plane. Okay, so the only thing you have to do is put these numbers inside of the plane, of the whatever plane you have. We're going to open the example that comes with XPlane11. That helps a little, but not so much, because nobody explains you how to create it. You have to think about it. There are no example, no tutorials. So that is the reason I'm in a research. We're going to go to this one. You see here, it has the particles here, and it has some particles here. Okay, this is the object that he created. If you open it, you will see that it has this sentence. More or less, it don't has any, also hasn't got any polygons, but we have to copy this line. Okay, so we copy this line, Control C in our line, and put it here. This is very important, because if not, it's not going to appear. Okay, we save it. Now we have to select the area of XPlane11 that the particles are in as default. In XPlane, for example, the sounds, you have default sounds. If in your aircraft don't put a specific folder inside of the folder of your plane, then of sounds, for example, then it's going to pick up the sounds, default sounds, and these default sounds are here in resources. Resources, in this case, the sounds would be in sounds here, but in our case, we are going to pick up the effects. Okay, because in the effects is where the particles are. If you don't create a new one in your folder, then of your plane, then they are going to pick up these ones by default. If we want to substitute them, then we have to pick up from here and modify them, because we don't want to modify the default ones. Okay, so in this case, we are going to pick up the aircraft systems. I think this is the texture that it defines the particles. Okay, because we are not going to put a bullet, we are not going to put a weapon. Okay, that are different particles. We are not going to put an aircraft explosion. Okay, in this case, because it will pick up the default one. Okay, when the airplane, and our airplane, the Siai Marchetti, explodes, then it will pick up this explosion. If we want to modify them, then we pick up and change that. Okay, even you see I made an autosave here modifying the first one, so I'm going to remove this autosave. Okay, so we pick up these particle systems, the aircraft systems PSS and PNG. Okay, that is the default. Make copy, Control C, and we go to the that we are working on, in this case the Siai Marchetti. Go to the particles and put them inside. I'm going to modify these particles, putting my name, for example, JRollon tutorial. Okay, and I'm going to pick the texture of JRollon tutorial. Doesn't matter, whatever name you put it. Okay, this is the particles. The particles define it, but explain by default. But we are going to modify them. Here we have the name of the object. Okay, that is the emitter where we are going to make it appear. the particles. That's usually I put it here, but I can put whatever emitters I want, 1000 emitters or whatever. Be careful with performance. Okay, so we have this one, as I said, is this file. I substitute this file that is necessary, and then if you check out here, you are going to see that this is the usual. I'm going to copy, and I'm going to forget about this one. Okay, just to let you see, I'm going to remove that one. Okay, if you can see here, what is saying to you is that is an emitter, is a new label for the emitters of the particles, just as other anim or whatever. This is a new one, XPlane11.30, and this is the type of particles that is going to, the emitter that is going to use. In this case, is using the APU effects. For me, I'm going to put the JRollon that is still I didn't create without a space, never a space, but I'm going to put like this, JRollon emitter. Okay, and then I have here the position of the where is the plane. This is the, in this case, compared with XPlane, the number that comes here. Okay, here we have the number of my position. This number is, I believe it was, this is the X, the Y, and the Z, and this is the X, the Y, and the Z, or something like that. You have to check out. You will see where it is. So when you don't put it in the correct position, because you don't have the 3D program to put it, you just have to put this line. Removing this with this line, you will have an emitter in your plane. Okay, in whatever plane you want, whatever. Okay, you only have to put it inside of the object, in the particles or whatever. Even if you put here in the objects here, it's going to be, but it's good to preserve some kind of order or whatever. So if you put this file in any other plane, then you are going to have an emitter, okay, with this position relative to that plane. So it's not going to be in the same position. Maybe if you put 0, 0, a good position to start with is 0, 0, 0, because usually that is in the nose of the airplane. Okay, and then you start moving this. I want to put it move back. So back, I think it was the Z or the Y, I don't remember. For example, -5. So I put it back or put it to the front, and then export it. Save it again. Okay, and reload the plane, and you see where the emitter is. Okay, but I'm going to leave this one like this. Okay. In this case, I'm not going to use these numbers because I have the numbers here. Even I have rotation here, translation, several numbers. Okay, as you see, they are the same numbers. I don't know why it repeats twice, but it works. Okay, so I'm going to leave it like that because Exporter gives me that number. I don't have to put that number. But what I'm going to do is copy this one, cut it, Control X, and then put it here. Okay. If you have from Blender, then you are going to have the position. You only have to put before the animation of the end. There is no animation, but it's a position only. I can remove this one, and then I have what I wanted to change. That is JRollon emitter, JRollon emitter. Okay. Now, if we load the XPlane, that particles won't appear because it has to be loaded inside of the plane. How we load inside of the plane? Very easily. We go to XPlane and we go to PlaneMaker. Okay. We just wait for PlaneMaker. So once I have that, then I have to go to the Miss Objects, that is the area where I have loaded all the objects that are exported and appears. Okay, and then add a new one. Right, a new one. You can add whatever in your planes or whatever you like, and in this case I'm going to be inside. You can see I'm in objects because it's going to read the objects folder all the objects that I created in 3D Studio Max and I exported, or in Blender or whatever, and then go into particle tutorial and open this one. And then the particles are going to appear here. It's very important to show them here because you won't see them. Okay, we leave it like that outside. For now, it has no meaning. Even I think it has no meaning about if they are inside, outside. It would be nice to allow you to exclude the vision from some particles if they are inside or if they are outside. That's an idea I sent to Ben Samnik. I don't know if he's going to use it or not. Okay, so once we have done that, then we are not going to see anything because there is no geometry here, but we are going to save it. Of course, in XPlane11.30 PlaneMaker, not 26, because if not, it's not going to work. We can quick this one. We go to our plane that still is not changed, is the default one, okay? And we are going to just reload current aircraft and art here. This way it's going to load the new ACF change we made it, and the particle system is going to appear where it has to be. Once we have this, then we have to open the editor of the particles. There is an editor that PlaneMaker is outside, but there is a editor that is inside. You go to developer, and here you will see the particle systems browser. We will see that we only have these options that are the default ones. If we refresh it, there won't appear any other particles. The reason of that is because this particle system is picking up the default one. We want to modify our plane, so we are going to give it a name different, like for example particles tutorial. It's going to be different. Yes, particles tutorial, the same as the object. Okay, doesn't matter, it can be any name. I'm going to put this one, particles tutorial. Okay, we should have in the particle browser only these two ones. If we refresh it, will appear the new one, the particles tutorial we have. Okay, now we go outside and we won't see any particles. If we double click over here, then it will appear a second window that is the this is for all the particles, particle browser. This is for the particles tutorials we created in the folder. Okay, and here you see the particles, the emitters, and they are appearing because they are copied from the default one. Okay, we created the aircraft systems particles. Okay, so we have the same particles. Now we are going to choose we could create a new emitter properties, but we are going to choose one that we don't going to use. So we are going to Control C this one. This is the emitter, and I'm going to usually use the APU effects because this airplane doesn't have any APU. If I would have to use another one, maybe I could use, for example, rocket fire, because this is not a rocket, or whatever you like. Okay, but each one has different options, different ways of emitting, but we can modify them. Okay, we go here, you are going to see that more or less all the properties are the same. You see, I'm choosing each one, but here they are not new, so they are all the same. So it doesn't matter whatever we choose, and we modified this name, JRollon emitter. Okay, now this is referencing its reference to these particles inside. We have to save. Okay, and we click only once here, and we are in the particles. I'm going to pop up this one and leave it outside so we can see better. Even I'm going to do the same with this one so we can see better. Okay, now as you can see, there's nothing emitting. There is the frames are going, so it's not paused, the simulator. Why is not emitting? Because here I'm going to put the test, the particle type. There are a lot of particle types. Put the test. Okay, it's good to see if they are emitting or not. and the reason it's not emitting is because the animation is referenced, especially in this case in the APU, because it comes from the APU effects. It comes from the APU data ref. When the data ref is 0, when the APU is 0, then it's not going to emit any particle. So we are going to modify that. We are going to say that when the particle is 0, when the value of the data ref, this data ref is 0, emit particles 1. Okay. Now we check out and we don't see anything from here. And we say, why we still don't see anything from here? The reason is because there is also another option here, alpha, that is saying that is from this data ref has to be from 0 to 1. We save it, and still we don't see anything. The reason of that is because we have to save this one, and we have to reload the aircraft again. And here they are appearing, as you can see. Sometimes when you don't see things, you have to reload it's not immediately. Maybe they have to substitute that. You can see they are emitting particles here. And particles is this, is billboards. There are billboards that are facing the billboards are squares that are facing always the camera. So always appears not as 2D but as 3D, but they are not cubes, are planes, only 2 polygons per each one, and it has no texture. Why it hasn't got any texture? The main reason because it don't has any texture is because it hasn't set the texture correctly. I modified the name of the texture, so we have to call it. And as you can see, the particle system is calling from the aircraft system PNG, while I rename those textures, I rename it as particles tutorial to have the same name. So I'm going to copy this and just put it here. Okay. Now it's reloaded, and you will see that now appears at smokes. Okay. Now we have the particles, and that is the most difficult part, because now the only thing you have to do is play with it. So for example, you want to modify, when I'm touching, there's no motion. When you, for example, want to go to the emitters and you want to modify the particles here, you can play a lot with it, and instead of clicking on test, we are going to, I'm going to put it here, going to put different particles, for example, to play around and have fun. Even if you cannot do this, I have to set it up like that. Electrical spark, that's one, yes. You see here there are some particles. I don't know if they emit by night. Yes, they emit by night, so that is good. They are emissive. They emit. They are self-elimination. Engine smoke. Whatever you want. Engine blur. You see? Or whatever, gun smoke or gun spill or tracers. You know, you have whatever you want to use. For the testing purpose, usually I work in the test because they are very nice to see which number of particles, the number. You have to take in consideration this number always, okay, to not make any problem. So when you go to the meters, you will see here that in all of them they have several options here, and it's ruled by some data refs. For example, in this case, what it's saying that depending on the air speed that it has in the indicators, depending on that, then it's going to emit more or less. Something that I think is wrong, because if it's there is a bug or something in a problem in the pitot heat, then it's going to appear 0, but still you are going to have speed. So in this case, what I'm going to do is remove it, and still I'm going to have the same. If I just click, for example, this number and I put like 65, okay, that it was like this one, all are going to be 65 or 500. I put 500 or whatever. I put 65. I wanted to put 65. Okay, 65. As you can see, I can put one, and it's going to put one particle each time with a life. Okay. If you go, for example, with that particle and put the lifetime instead of life 1, I put life 2, then it's going to take more time. Maybe, I don't know, 0.1. If it should be, you see, it's less distance that it can't. The time of the life, the time is going to, at the same speed, it's going to make less distance that it runs. For example, in 5, it's going to appear the particle until very late, and that is important because the more time the particle it's here showing in 3D, it's going down because it has some kind of gravity. Okay. When you put a lot of particles, then the frames per second are going to go down. So that is important to be careful about that. When you put more, for example, rate 25, it's going to be 25 particles, okay, emitting. Okay. Now we want to choose, for example, the initial speed. Initial speed is none. I'm going to put 1. You're going to see how the particles are going slower. We put, and it's preserving not so much space because it's taking 1 second or something, 1 unit seconds. It's 1 second of light. If I put 2 seconds of life, seconds of life, then it's going to be. It should be. If not, there is a bug, and they should correct. Okay, it's more time. If I put 5 seconds, then until the next one is emitted, it's not going to be immediately. There are particles that were emitted with 2 seconds only life, so it has to take time until it reaches the new lifetime. Okay, the more particles you put, you are going to see the frames per second are going to fall. If we put, for example, 1000, then see here now it's changing from 70 to, still is very nice, but you have to be very careful, okay, with that. We're going to put it 25 we have before. Okay, still the particles that were emitted won't die. Okay, I'm going to put the 1 second. I'm going to put the speed at 5, for example. Okay, then the angular velocity, I don't understand it quite well, but you can see here maybe 0 angular velocity. Maybe it has some time of turning or whatever, then it can show differences, but I don't see any differences here. Initial pitch, you see here it's modifying the angle that disappear. Then we have the initial heating is 179. If we put 0, then it's going to appear to the other direction. Okay, the reason because appears is here. Okay, then the size, of course you can make them bigger. It's the same billboard but bigger one. Okay, you can see these properties are properties from the emitter. If I put this one, I'm going to show you this one better. I'm going to remove this one, so it's going to be always like that. I put always 1, and it's going to be always 1. If I want put 0.1, then appears less. You see the alpha is showing less of the texture. Depends on what you want. Even if you put 50, they are going to appear more strong. Usually it's only 1, but okay. And lifetime, I'm going to put the 5, so you can see better other things that you are going to see. Okay, here you can see this emitting like that, and it's always going to the other side. We have seen more or less the particles, but also we have here the particles here. As you can see here, the emitters is JRollon emitter that is making a test. Of course, we could just choose the test one here, that is the particles ones, and then we could just modify them because there are more particles. The maximum number of particles here is going to be set, for example, at 10,000. It's going to modify that, and it's going to appear more particles. It's allow more particles, so you have to take care. Even if you put the rate more particles, then it's going to appear only 3,000 in this case. If I put only one, the particle, it was set here to 5, I don't know, 25, I don't remember. But if I put only one, then it's going to appear only one. It's going to rule here. So this is the maximum number of particles you allow from the emitter to emit. Okay. Then you have the physics. The gravity is 0, as you can see. If you put gravity at 1, then it's going to fall. Okay. Okay. We can make a fountain or whatever. Or whatever you want, no? Okay, so you can put 0.1, so it's going to appear something. Of course, it has also the relationship of the speed that it has the plane. You have to take care of that because it affects everything. Okay, we put 0.01, and then the emission is less that's one, less gravity. Then we have also the drag is some kind of friction with the air, so it stops. It emits, but it stops. So we have to be careful. You see, it's something like it's stopping. You can put less, so it's some kind of okay. Also, you have the angular velocity, the same. The turbulence, if you have turbulence, then it's going to appear like that. You see, there are direction in all directions. You have to take care of any possible turbulence you can simulate. Okay. Then there is a ground here. You can bound when you hit the ground. I don't know if that is implemented or not. Maybe in the future we can test it with more. You see here, it's bouncing here. Still is bouncing from the ground. Appears, I don't know if you see perfectly well here. You see, it's bouncing, or you can make it that they die when just hit the ground. Okay, it's working. Then the elasticity, I don't know if this is because you see, it's bouncing a lot. With the elasticity, of course, it has to be with the bouncing. Okay, 0.1 or whatever. As you can see, it's very easy. You now have to experiment with it. Then you have a more billboard, or you can put a heat blur. As you can see, there's heating blur. Okay. Then axial billboard or mode billboard. Okay. Then blending mode, additive, or pre-multiply, or normal way. Divisions. These are the if we put, for example, we're going to put the emitters more size. Okay. We're going to put something like 3. Then we have the emitters. Here we have the divisions is the number. You can see it's less. If we put 1, then it's some kind of the division that it has. You should divide the particles in different areas. So weight effects that you can use. Star cell 5, for example, then it's going to be different. All this is affecting. You can choose whatever you want and repeat. For example, in 5, it's going to be repeated. You have to be careful when you do this. And then the animation rate, it's going to be in the lifetime, for example, from 0 to 1, or you can better scale from 20. You see, you can make very small at the beginning and then bigger in the lifetime of the particle lifetime. Then the alpha, of course, you can fade it to 0. They are going to disappear at the beginning, at the end. The longitude with the lifetime can be at the beginning very short and then big is longer. The diffuse, the ambience, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So you can tie into different colors at the end. So as you can see, you can do whatever you want. It's up to you where you put it, where you load it, where you use it. I think it's a great addition to XPlane and makes a lot of possible modifications from users and creators. And I think always we have to share our knowledge and put to the community to that is XPlane. More or less that is XPlane at the end. Hope you like it, and please subscribe, and well, enjoy. See you. Ciao, ciao. Bye bye. Thank you.